This podcast is kindly supported by our friends at Acre Pharmacy, one of the key aesthetic pharmacies leading the way in responsible supply.
So, we all are online and on social media and various other outlets, but at what point is sharing oversharing?
I think this is hard as well because what you would share in your NHS role and then what you share in your private role is quite different. Sometimes in your private role, it's easier to not see people as friends, but you get more of a relationship and a continuous relationship. Or maybe when you're in the NHS, you don't have that relationship because the turnover of patients wherever you go is quite high. Unless you're seeing like a continuous condition in a clinic, you don't have that rapport. So I think it can be quite difficult in a private sector to not overshare and to get the balance right between patient and practitioner, and what you share about your personal life or happiness, life behind closed door, conditions.
Yeah.
It is difficult to manage.
I think there's a few things happening in the media at the minute. I know our friend Miranda Pierce has openly kind of talked about her journey at the moment with menopause and depression.
Yeah.
And at times, Miranda's always said she wanted to be very authentic. She's always been very open and transparent. And that is her, isn't it? That's who she is, and that's what people love about her. And I know from watching her kind of go through that process, at times it's been difficult for her because she's been getting great feedback and also negative feedback.
Yeah.
And I think and other people as well sharing things that they're going through in their life, whether it's political, all the political, comments. People have said they shouldn't be saying that, they shouldn't be sharing that, that's not the platform. And I think you could argue on both sides. And I guess for me, like I said before we filmed this, recently for me, I was, and you'll all be very, very surprised by this comment, very surprised, diagnosed with ADHD. Shock. I know. A quiet, reserved individual I know it's hard to believe. But for me, it's one of those things that I kind of I've known about for a long time. It makes and the reason I've always kind of hid away from going down the road of having it diagnosed is because I think I've seen it as quite a negative thing. And also there was a point where I was like, I don't want people to know that about me. I don't want people to think, because I think there's even the name of it, attention deficit, kind of suggests a deficit. It has a negativity. But I think over the last 6 months to a year, I've seen a lot more people talk about it. And actually, I've never seen it as a negative. I can spin 100 plates at one time.
Oh, we know.
I know it has a negative for me because I burn out a lot. I don't sleep very well. I work like a Trojan. And obviously there's that continuous repetition where you analyse things and make sure that you've come across right. And I think, for me personally, it has its moments. But I think in terms of me professionally, it's a positive. I work hard. I can see patterns. I can analyse things. I think out of the box. I can be quite creative in that sense. I see opportunities. And through learning how to deal with it over the years, I've been able to channel that in a positive way. Don't get me wrong. I still have I still have my moments where I have hyper focus, and I have my moments where I have to withdraw and hide away because I'm totally overstimulated. So, but I feel now, because of other people kind of talking about it, I feel now that I can almost share that and without worrying about what people will think. Because I don't know why I was so worried about the negativity associated with it.
I think whenever you share something about yourself, you worry about having a backlash or something negative because you make yourself vulnerable.
You open yourself up to criticism.
The second you share something that's personal to you, you make yourself vulnerable because those comments can hurt and they matter to you. But if you share something that doesn't really matter, you don't care about, then you don't care about the negativity. Obviously, your diagnosis is personal to you and is something that has bothered you, and you've learned to kind of, like you said, channel in a positive way, but it means that it makes you a bit vulnerable sharing that. Very well done, Laroche, sharing that to the world.
She said it. It's out there.
Said it. It's out. Tell the world. Crazy Kate's out. No, but do you know what? I think it's because so many people I know, professional people have it, and we talk behind closed doors. And if I'm honest, I can remember 2 years ago, 18 months ago, somebody coming up to me and just going, there was zero conversation. The word ADHD did not come up. And if she's listening to this, she'll know exactly who she is. And she just walked up to me randomly and said, so what medication do you take? And I remember being like, oh my God, that's so offensive. I'm like, so offensive. But then I reflected on, why am I offended by that?
Yeah.
And I think it's because I've never gone down the route of medicating. You know, I'm old. When I was younger, I was very aware I wasn't neurotypical, and it didn't impact me academically. I was always very clever at school, but it impacted me in the early beginnings in relationships. You know, I would go to bed at night and analyse every single conversation I had that day to pick out if I'd offended anyone. And then I would send a million emails, because back then we didn't have text, saying, you know, on chat rooms, MSN chat room, and just say, did I upset you today? I realised that I said this to you last week at 7:00 and it was this tone, and I'm really hoping that hasn't upset you. And people were like, why are you even thinking about that? It was over my head. So although it affected me early on, you know, I went through the whole therapy thing, but it never even got said it was ADHD. It was just, that's your brain, the way your brain works, and let's find ways to kind of organise those patterns. And I went through my own journey with it. So I wasn't really that bothered about getting a diagnosis. To me, I think the reason I wanted a diagnosis was simply because it was a patient who said to me one day, I think it was when I was doing my master's, and I was joking about the fact that I smashed my dissertation out in like 12 hours. And she was like, have you always had that hyper focus? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, how long have you had ADHD then? And I was like, well, I don't know. I've not had a diagnosis. She said, but you should have one. I was like, then I was getting really defensive and go, why does everyone keep telling me to have a diagnosis? Why does it matter? And then actually she was the first person who said it doesn't matter, but it will allow you to understand your behaviour. Yeah. So then you can start seeing the triggers and try and avoid the negative attributes of it. So obviously when you do a lot, like sometimes if I've been at a conference or I've done a lot of talks, I can get completely brain overload. And I just need to sit in a room, and my husband knows, because he'll go, oh, okay, I'll see you in a bit. And he knows I just don't want to talk to anyone. I just need to decompress. And I can stay like that for 12 hours. He knows not to be offended. Yeah. But I think the point of me bringing it up is to say, like, we shouldn't really feel that we can't be ourselves. Or I know, like, people get criticised for oversharing, but is it really oversharing when you talk about something that's very current and you own it?
I think there's a right way to do it, definitely. But also I kind of think, well, I don't know, actually I retract that statement, because there is no right way to do it, because you're an individual, and the way you're doing it is your right way to do it.
Unique to you.
Yeah, and I think people are going to talk, they're going to say whatever they want to say. But if you, in your business, in your life, you feel happy and you feel successful, or whatever makes you happy, makes you tick, that's actually all that matters. And I know I'm getting all like heebie-jeebie emotional, but sorry, it's just a pregnancy.
No, but do you know what?
I'm going to cry now.
Do you know what this has just made me think? When we did the conference in May, was May, wasn't it?
Yeah,
May.
Yeah.
You were obviously pregnant, and you weren't announcing yet because obviously you wanted to tell all the family about it first.
Yeah.
And I know it was so hard for me and Grace, because Grace and I was just looking at you carrying that, and you were like stressing so much. You're like, are people going to be worried why I'm not drinking alcohol? Are people going to be worried that I'm not 100%? And then you were worried because you had baby brain and and it was like, you put so much pressure on yourself that day. And I know it's not the same, but in a way, and there was a reason why you weren't telling people, and obviously as soon as you were comfortable you did. But by telling people, that pressure goes. And I think really that's where I'm getting at, because I can remember turning around at the conference, I think it was it ACE last year, and I remember walking in and I'd had like a crazy few days. I'd done like 3 talks on each day, and I remember walking up to one of our colleagues and he said, are you okay? And I was like, yes, I'm fine. He went, you're making me feel really uncomfortable. And I was like, why? He went, you're not ill, are you? I was like, no, I'm fine. And he found it so unusual, because I wasn't my high energy, 100%. I was a little bit recluse, what do you call it? Introvert. I was a bit, withdrawn, a little bit introvert. I was there, I was present, but in my head, I was on overload.
Yeah.
Too many people were talking to me. And I guess that experience has made me want to go, do you know what? I want people to know, because if I do ever have that moment, I want them to go, okay, she's clearly, that's why I'm not to be offended. She's not being rude. Because I felt so much pressure that day to be my energetic self, because people were borderline offended and concerned. They thought I was dying because I was quiet. And I thought, you know, hopefully if it removes some of that pressure. So I do think, like you say, it's got to be for the right reasons.
Yeah, definitely.
But I would borderline say that I don't think we should be ashamed to talk about these things.
No, definitely. And I think it breaks the barrier as well. Like, you then feel like they're happy to talk about it. So actually, I'm happy to talk about it, because no one person will go through something and be the only person in the world that is having that at that time. And I think it's nice when you do feel like a problem shared is a problem halved. And I know it's so typical saying that, but it is. Like, sometimes just going in and just going like, I don't need fixing. I just literally needed to say that. Like, and I feel so much better now. So thank you for giving me that. And I think there is an element of doing that on social media and like an outlet of, this is what I'm going through at the moment. And I feel like we always feel the need to apologise. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's a British thing of like, I'm really sorry, I'm not like on top form today, or I haven't been posting or something like that. And you know what? That's absolutely fine.
I see that all the time.
Definitely. And that's the thing, like, I haven't been posting because life is life, and it's lifing, and I'm not feeling like I want to at the moment. And I think that's something, like, since I've been pregnant, I've really noticed, like, I'm taking some time for me, and my body is not my own at the moment, and I don't know what's going on. So I'm taking a step back, and that's fine. If I want to talk about it in a few months' time, I absolutely will.
But you still I know you still feel that pressure to turn up.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that doesn't go
It's
away.
totally and we can say all we want, but that's never going to go, is it?
No.
Because we feel almost like performers.
Yeah.
It is. It's dancing monkey.
Yeah, like me, feeling like I have to apologise because I'm quiet. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
What the hell is that? Like, okay, it's not 100 miles an hour. Something that normally makes her feel really paranoid that she's 100 miles an hour. Now she's apologising because she's not 100 miles an hour. You're not on social media as much, and you feel you need to apologise for it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you feel like you have...
My life's fun right
I know.
now. But I get really anxious. You two know I get anxious, and I get anxiety if I think I've offended somebody. And I get anxiety when I'm given big decisions. And then my anxiety, I procrastinate about not doing things on my to-do list.
I know you do this. I see that in your behaviour, because you're one of those people that worries so much about... I'm not going to say what people think, but we are people pleasers, so aren't we? We're people pleasers. We don't want to offend people.
Yeah.
And
you're conscious of that.
I make decisions that aren't right for me or my business because I don't want to offend someone. And then I find myself going along with something, and I'm thinking, I'm so anxious over this right now. And then I'll write to-do lists to try and calm my anxiety. But then I'm anxious over my to-do list. Over doing my to-do list makes me anxious.
Yeah, but you just do nothing.
But now I have got easier that I will go into work. Like yesterday, I went into work and I'm like, I feel really anxious today. Like, I'm dealing with anxiety right now.
But do you know what? There is nothing wrong with being transparent. In my early years, when I was like 18, right up to my late 20s, when I was running a business, I was a completely different person because I had a chip on my shoulder, because I thought, I'm young, people are going to think I'm stupid, I'm going to go in and be really bossy and just be an arsehole. And I was. And honestly, I really was. I know it's hard to believe, but I really was. And when I look back on that, all that was done because I felt like I needed to prove something.
Yeah.
And now I'm quite happy. Like, we all know, anyone in this industry, summer is hard. Financially, summer is hard. Yeah, we know that. It's always going to be, it's the peaks and troughs. We know it's a short thing, but we know we've got to prepare for it. We've got to account for it. And I tell, it doesn't scare me now because after all these years, it's the same every year. So you know that. But I think naturally it's okay to kind of voice that and be transparent, you know, and own it. Like, say to your staff or whatever, you know, you have targets for a reason.
Yeah,
They're
it's like,
important.
Yeah.
recently on holiday, I spent the whole holiday checking our KPIs, checking our bookings. I know August is a quieter month, but I still get anxiety
Anxious.
over it.
Yeah.
And then my partner, he's like, but this happens every year and you're always fine. And it always evens out. And you do this every year, you panic that all your bookings have gone and your business is gone and you're going back to the NHS. And then every year it's exactly
It's
the
always
same.
the
But
same.
in my head, it's really hard.
Because you're getting ledgy.
Yeah.
Going on the ledge.
Yeah.
And then I'm there and I'll check the bookings at 2:00 in the morning. And then I'll check them again at 4:00 in the morning. And then I'm checking the forecasted predicted income for the month 10 times a day.
But you're not alone in that. Like, if you literally jumped onto your story and said exactly what you said, like, I guarantee you would be inundated with messages of like, oh my God, same.
Remember when she did it, when you got on your story one night and you, because let's be fair, you are far more in the sense, like, me and Meg will just go on social media looking like absolute dog shit.
Yeah,
you normally don't. You're always like fine-tuned. Me and Meg are like, YOLO, it is what it is. And one day you got on with no makeup, your hair in a bun, and was just like, I've had a shit day. This has happened. And I remember it was the biggest, warmest response you've ever had, because people were so shocked at your vulnerability, your authenticity, and the fact that you were being so real. Not that they don't think you are anyway, but you bared all. You let your guard down.
And that's my thing. I've got big walls. My partner says it all the time.
You have. It's who you are.
I build my walls so high that I'm like, no one can hurt me. And I'm in my little anxious brain by this. And I find it really hard to let those walls down and to like be vulnerable with people. I'm not very good at being vulnerable.
But it's, you know, we all grow up in ways to protect ourselves. It's human nature, isn't it? But, you know, keeping it on topic, there's nothing wrong with what you're saying. You know, we all have whether it's our weird things that we do, our rituals, our behavioural patterns, but there's nothing wrong with sharing it. Like even what you've just said, like, there's no big thing there. It's just, I don't want to turn up today.
Yeah.
And that should be okay. I swear to God, yesterday I was scanning and I must have seen 5-6 people saying, I'm really sorry that I've not been online lately, but this has happened. I'm really sorry that I've not put this. Why do we feel the need? We feel the need because we are performing monkeys.
Yeah. And it is that pressure of if you don't turn up, and also that bang on effect of your business. Like, because I know that my page is my business. And yes, my business ticks along if I'm not being 100% present, as I always am, because my regulars, and I've built that client base and I'm very lucky for it. But at the end of the day, you know, you still need new people. You need to reach out to new people and be constantly present and be that little circle.
I shared something
day.
this morning that said success is not owned, it's rented, and the rent is due every day.
You've got to be
Regardless of whether you want
consistent.
to do it. And I shared that this morning because obviously I had a bit of a morning before I came here. Messaged the girls in tears, but pulled it back. And it just hit me that it is. So you can either choose to pay rent on success or pay rent on failure.
Yeah.
So even when you feel a bit rubbish, sometimes you've got
to show up.
But I think we're all entitled to take that break. And you sharing like your ADHD, I would have never shared that I was anxious before. And I never associated how I felt with anxiety. I thought, I don't have anxiety, but I do. And I do get anxious over stuff. And it's made other people sharing, it's made it easier for me to say, oh, I feel anxious today. I've never done that like 3 years ago.
Yeah, because we see it as weakness. But the thing is, it's not weakness because you feel anxious. I'm just a crazy person who has a million thoughts going on ahead of your day. You conscious that you're not showing up, but we still all show up.
Yeah.
People need to take the coffee off me. And coffee makes my anxiety worse.
But we all have all these things, and yet we are still moving forward. So I guess what we're trying to say is, yes, we are all three crazy people and we all have our box to bear, but we still get stuff done. Yeah. We still turn up. We still do things with our authenticity. We're in the right way, with bumps along the road maybe, but we still achieve it. So don't feel like at times you can't have a moment, but remember, you still got to show up.
And you
can't disappear.
Yeah.
You got to go, do you know what? Even if I've got my bun up and I've got the makeup on, but I need to show up, I'm going to show up. Yeah. I'm going to show up with my hair in a bun. I'm just going to own it today. Yeah. I'll get back to being me tomorrow. And I think, it's very rare that people will see me being vulnerable or even remotely quiet. And a lot of the time in the past, I've completely hid away from people when I'm having those moments. But now I feel like if I'm having one of those days, or if I feel like a little bit like I want to moan, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And feel like I'm allowed to.
Yeah. But
And
you
that's
will
the
reach
point, isn't
people
it?
as well.
Yeah, I
Like,
think
they will feel the same.
Yeah.
And it definitely makes it easier for other people to share.
Yeah. So to finish off, I think we should say that, yes, there can be, we have to be considered in what we're sharing. We have to consider the impact of that and own it. You know, whatever we're saying, we need to own what comes back. But we can still be our authentic selves.
Yeah.
And we're human.
We're human. We can all do that and think life will be fine.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.